Welcome everyone to Solomon's Crown. So today, guys, we came across an interesting topic, and it's basically about the power of mothers in a son's life, especially in Black men's lives. So I know you guys probably watched our earlier video on how Donda West influenced her son, the famous Kanye West, in his journey to become one of the biggest rap moguls, businessmen, producers that we've seen in the last couple of decades. But here we're gonna discuss the opposite end,
Mm.
which is a situation about on this lady show. Remind me of the name of this lady, Will.
Oh, I can't even say her name.
But
but
I've seen her videos before. We'll put her name in the comment section below, and we'll link the video. But without further ado, we're just gonna show you a clip.
Your business. You say that you don't see the man that your son is. So I'm asking you, since this is not a demonstration of a man, you need to tell me what man you're using to measure him with. Which one?
My idea.
Which is your idea. Now, is that the idea you trained him up to be?
No.
Oh,
All right, guys. So you've seen the clip. So basically, we're just gonna go right into it and dissect what we think on it. So when you think about the power that a mother has on her son, there's so many levels to this, and there's so many reasons why I think personally society is the way it is. But on the first level, a mother is usually the nurturer of the children. She usually shows the caring, the comfort that a son can go to, whereas a father is usually the disciplinarian, the one that you can go to for wisdom and advice and stuff. But the mother is usually the emotional and like the spiritual rock of the family, where the kids can kind of be safe. You know what I mean? So I know in my experience, being the child of a single parent, my mom, she came from Jamaica. I think she went to school up to fourth grade, and then she had to work with her family. And she was like one of maybe, I think, 10 kids. Because, back in those days, especially in the Caribbean, those parents got busy and they had a bunch of kids. But, my mom, she worked hard. She came to the States. She got her license, practitioner of nursing. She worked her butt off, and she pretty much instilled in me, like, get your education, like, reading books. Like, I think when I was 5 years old or something like that, when I was in first grade, I was reading like grade level three level of books and stuff. So she really instilled in me the importance of education, and this is why I am the way I am today, because of the drive and the support that my mom gave, and believing in me. So that's the positive that I had from my relationship. That's also with Kanye's relationship with his late mother. But when you juxtapose our situations with this particular young man, where this woman is saying that, oh, I don't see her son as a man, you can imagine the soul crushing, like,
yeah,
impact that has on a young man, especially if his father is not around. Because in a lot of ways, unfortunately, a single mom is looked up as the father and the mother. And it's like when the one person you think you have in your corner is telling you to your face that you're not a man, especially your mother. Because I think emotional manipulation and words from women that we are vulnerable in, or that we're vulnerable to, I think that's where it hurts the most. Because like if a dude is talking shit to you, for the most part, like if you're strong in your emotions and you're stoic and you know what you're about, like a dude can say anything. It's like, okay, cool. But if it's like your mom or your girlfriend or your wife or what have you, it kind of catches you a certain way. And on another level, to go to caveat on this, I think this is why a lot of the reasons of dudes either becoming like weak, or like, you know the sim culture that we have, or dudes just being knuckleheads and doing wild stuff on the internet and just on the streets. Because you have these generations of men that their mom either rang in their head like, you know, you ain't shit like your dad and blah 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 and all this stuff, or, you know, because, you know, they have this resentment of the baby fathers that they had and whatnot, and they put it out on their sons. Or they, like in this example with the mom, she has this picture of the perfect man, and, you know, everyone is different, and if her son doesn't reach that perfect picture of a man in her head, it's like he isn't worthy in her eyes. And it's like, this is why it kind of irks me when people downplay the role of masculinity. Like anytime a dude is trying to be tough or trying to instill traditional, quote unquote traditional, I don't think they're traditional, it is what it is, you know, masculine values, it's always downplayed as, oh, that's toxic masculinity, or his ego is fragile, or he's weak, or whatever. And it's like, we downplay masculinity and the importance in it in our society in growing up the next generation. And it's like, dude, this is the reason why you have mothers like this. Because I'm pretty sure she probably didn't have, I'm assuming she didn't have a good relationship with her dad, because she has this warped vision of, oh, this is what a man is supposed to be, and probably why the father isn't in his life. You know what I mean? So it's a tragedy that a woman can do that, because as that lady put, it's like a mom's words are coils around her son's heart, and if she does that, there's no amount of physical damage that can compare to the damage that she's done to her son. And she might alienate herself from her 3 grandboys because of the way she treated him, because he probably knows she's capping, she don't mean it.
But
So
I mean, that's his
it's
mother.
unfortunate,
So
man.
I mean, he knows that she's trying to say it to get a reaction out of him. She wants him to push further and things like that. But like the thing is, like she said, is like, what have you trained him or taught him to be this man that you want him to be? And she's just like trying to flip it, not take accountability for her inactions to raise her son the way that she wants him to be, and then also holding him up to what seems like an unrealistic standard. Because if you can't raise your son to be like the man that you want him to be, then what does that say about you? So that goes back to her accountability. I mean, as far as my mom went, single mother. I mean, I had my grandfather for a little bit of my life, and as you guys have known from my past, my grandfather passed away when it was like my 9th grade year. But I mean, even with the little that I remember from him, I know that before he passed, he told me that I need to take care of my mom and my sister, and I was going to be the man of the house and everything like that. And while I stuck true to that for the most part, I won't say that I was like a perfect saint. Like, I gave my mom a lot of headaches, more so just because I felt like I was always alone. Because of my mom, I mean, she's an amazing mother, never did anything to like make me feel like I wasn't good enough. If anything, she's always supported me in everything that I've done, even when I don't ask for help. But there was a point in time where like me and my mom were somewhat butting heads, because I just wanted to be out. I just wanted to be constantly out in the streets, essentially. So like when I was younger, I'd just leave on the weekends, like say it was a Friday, and come back like Monday morning, go to school. And like I knew, based off of how she raised me, I knew like, okay, I got to go to school, things like that. I mean, I would ditch school every once in a while, stuff like that. But like I knew that graduating school was like a big thing. And my mom, while I was younger, I mean, she went to school while she was raising 2 kids. So me as the man of the house, I had to step up a lot and take care of my sister. So me and my sister were like connected at the hip. And there's a lot of life lessons that my mom taught me. I remember one time, bus passes back in San Diego, they were like $30 back then. I think they're like way like inflation. Like, she said it's like $100 and something for a bus pass now. But back in the day, like $30 was a lot. Like, let's just say 20 years ago, like that was a lot of money. And I remember I lost my bus pass, and she was like, well, looks like you're about to walk home. And anybody from San Diego knows I had to walk from Gompers all the way to Spring Valley. And when I say this is a hike, bruh, like I could really tell them stories. It's like, yo, I had to walk to school uphill, downhill, through the snow. Like, bro, like I get where that saying came from because, like, bro, like I'm talking about it was uphill, downhill, through the valley, like all types of stuff. And that was an important life lesson that she taught me about like taking care of my possessions and just kind of like for every action there's a equal or opposite reaction, and it's like, okay, I lost my I'll tell you this, I never lost my bus pass again, period. Like that was a one-time thing. Like, and I want to say, I mean, the reason why she didn't buy me a new bus pass, I mean, single mother trying to raise 2 kids, money's tight, and she just wanted to teach me a lesson. Like my grandfather and my grandparents were hard on her. When she was graduated high school, they dropped her off at college and said, don't come back till you got this degree. She got her degree, went to college, finished. Then she went into the Army a little while, met my dad. Then that happened. And then I came about and she got out the Army. So even after getting out of the Army, I always saw my mom as somebody who was pushing through all her trials and tribulations. And now, I mean, she's about to retire and she'll be able to relax. I mean, my mom's lived a pretty good life, but she's also had a rough life. So if she was projecting that negativity onto me, like, yeah, I could have turned out a lot better. But like, I don't remember my mom ever talking down to me or just saying like, you're not, she'll tell me that like, there's certain things that I need to be doing and I need to like step away from like friends who aren't helping me get to that, things like the typical mom stuff. And yeah, I mean, she's always been supportive, and truthfully, that's a big reason why I'm coming back to the States. I mean, time is very limited, and it's one of the most important things that we have. So I think that spending time with my mom and potentially opening a business with her, because she's talked about that, like what she wants to do after retirement, and just kind of giving back to her, because I don't know, man. Like you see it all the time where these mothers are like, "Oh, my son ain't this, my son ain't that," and it's just like, "Well, what's their father like?" And it's like, "Oh, their father's worse than that." And it's like the women get mad when the son starts gravitating towards the father and wondering why. Like, dang, like no wonder my dad left. Like this is what you're dealing with, and that's not always the situation. But like sometimes the father is in the wrong, and he's just a piece of shit. Like he just ain't worth a damn.
Yeah,
but sometimes the fathers are worth a damn and they try to be in their children's life. I mean, even going back to the Kanye situation, like him saying that Kim doesn't want to let him come to the birthday party of his daughter and things like that. And truthfully, like having kids definitely changes a man a lot. And this dude, I mean, Kanye has multiple kids. The guy in the video had 3 boys. Like, so now he's a man trying to raise 3 boys, and then he has his mother in his ear telling him like, yo, you're not a man. Like, so like, what is, like, she doesn't realize that those words will be passed down to his sons, and then he's going to try to raise his sons to not be like him, even though he may think that it's a tricky situation, because like he might raise his sons to not be like him, even though he might be a perfect man, or he'll stick fast to his beliefs and raise his sons to never be like somebody like their grandmother. So it's, you see it far too often, man. Like it's like these women try to raise these boys into men, and then they don't have any perspective or any views on like what a man should be, because as we said, like men and women operate differently as far as like men are kind of logical in certain situations and they're tough. They always go to like, oh, send them to their fathers so that they can like get talked to, like discipline. And then the women are like the emotional support, kind of like, okay, it's okay, like you made a mistake, this and that. And that might be role reversed too, where some women are more like steadfast, because I've seen it too. My homeboy's mom, like she's hard on him, like but like he grew up to be perfect. I mean, granted, I had to deal with him and he was a headache, but like that's like my brother. So like I understand, like, but when I see like how his mom is, like, oh, he don't take no shit. Like that's the thing. It's like if he feels like he's being disrespected, like nah, cut that shit out. Because like that's what his mom taught him. Like, nah, don't let nobody talk to you no type of way. Don't accept nothing less. Like you are the prize. Like you need to show people, like people need to respect you. That's something that we see I feel like in the older generation, if this is the type of women that are coming around, then that's kind of wild now. But I mean, a mother can definitely have a huge impact on a man and how he turns out. And that's why, like, when people are like, oh, you like Kanye, this, and that. And I enjoy Kanye as he is pure at heart, regardless of what he says out of his mouth, regardless of his actions. I still believe that Kanye is a humble person who holds on to the values that his mom instilled in him. And that's speaking off of personal experiences. Like, there's a lot of wild and reckless stuff I could have did, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, would my mom be happy if I was doing this, and that? It's a learning process, especially when, 18, like jumping into the world at 18 you're not ready. Like, some people are, I think a lot of dudes who have like their father in their lives who kind of like instill all those values, or like just people who have two parents who kind of just like nurture and things like that. But like, I wasn't ready for 18. I was ready, but I guess there was a lot of curveballs that hit me in life after I moved out of my mom's house. A lot of these lessons I could have not came back from. And people always ask me like, oh, why'd you leave? Like, what made you want to join the military or the Air Force and everything like that? And it's just like, I just didn't see myself progressing in the city that I was in. So I decided to change my scenery. And truth be told, it was very positive for me. I've been overseas for 8 years now, coming back to the States. And I think that I've learned a lot as far as like from other cultures, seeing how people in the world move and how they're raised. And I think that we as Americans could take a lot from other countries, whether it be not face value, but just stepping out of our comfort zone and stepping into another culture and seeing how they are raised and how things are different. Japan is drastically different from Europe. And you can attest to that, being that you're living in Japan. Is like Europe, and I've seen Japan, and I lived there for 4 years, and now I'm in Europe, and it's different. It's way different. Like, but the thing is like, there's the biggest thing that I realize is a lot of these houses, a lot of these families in Europe and Japan, they both have dual parent house. Like, whereas like that's a big game changer. Where it's like they kind of hold fast to the old traditions of like men work, women provide emotional support and support the man and things like that. And truth be told, like, it works. Like, and I think that's a big thing too in like Western society, where there's just like all this shenanigans about, not shenanigans, but like all this like radical talk about like women empowerment, masculinity, like
toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity and all this stuff. And it's just like breaking down our younger generation to think that like, okay, as a man, should I be more compassionate? Should I be more steadfast? And the thing is finding that balance, to be honest. There's times to be compassionate, there's times to be soft, there's times to be caring, loving, things like that. But in other situations as a man, you need to be steadfast, you need to hold to your beliefs, you need to stick to your pride and stand your ground, essentially. And arrogance may come into play and people may call you arrogance, but I think that sometimes like having arrogance without control is the downfall, but having arrogance with control can be a very empowering thing for a man, especially if you know what you want and you're not going to allow somebody else to discourage you from that. So
it's just, so I'm definitely going to go into this probably on my other channel, just to go on the cultural perspective of it. But I think just from on face value, I think that in the West, predominantly in the West, where marriage is romanticized as this thing as like, girl and boy meet and fall in love, like, some Disney type ish. But for all intents and purposes, marriage is a business first. It's an institution that is supposed to pretty much be the smallest unit to bring about the younger generation, right? Your job as a parent is to raise your kids and make sure that they're functioning human beings that are well adjusted and can contribute something to society in a positive way. And I think that's been lost in American culture with instant gratification and whatnot, to where, two people that are not made for each other, they come together and they have kids, and then it's like, oh, I can get a divorce and blah, 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 blah. And I think in the East, with arranged marriages or with the rigid conception of like, okay, if I'm married and I have kids, I'm a mom, I'm a dad, our priority is going to be our kids. In the aspect of raising children, I think that has more success in bringing well-adjusted people, as opposed to what's happening now in the West, where there's a prevalence of single parent homes and people just being wild and out there. Not saying that there isn't cons with the way that people in the East do it, but it's definitely yielding better results in the East, as I see it, living and walking around in among,
even as far as like their
Asian
success
people.
rates for like school
Yeah.
and just getting jobs that are like high paying jobs. Like a lot of Europeans make decent money, like probably well. They're first off, they know how to manage their money. A lot of them aren't in debt like Americans. If they are in debt, everybody's going to be in debt somewhere. But I think that the way that they manage things over here is a little bit more controlled because they're taught at a young age. Like, okay, if you want something, you're going to get a job, and this is what job you need to get. And they kind of like, they stay focused. Like the schools are better. They're learning a lot more at an accelerated rate. The way that they learn is not multiple choice like most American tests are, like standardized tests. It's literally like you have to go into a test and know it. Like they have a lot more handwritten questions where you have to explain your answers. You have to show your work for everything. So it gives them a certain level of appreciation for that success, because I feel like sometimes in America is just like, oh yeah, like take this SAT or this and that, and then, oh, you got this score, so like you're good enough to make it into this college. But like truthfully, like with multiple choice, you have a higher chance of getting an average score. That's why there's a lot more averages. And then for people who do above average, that's why they're praised, because it's like, oh, they actually know this, they actually study this and that. So they there's a lot of like separation between like education in Europe. Like if you're more educated, you kind of get looked upon to kind of like lead society. And then if you're not like that, you kind of are put in a role to support society, which both are good, but it's kind of like play to your strengths. Like it feels like over here, they don't really allow anybody to go to the wayside, as you would say. Like if you don't do good enough to become a doctor or something like that, you could go into like management. Like you might not be a doctor, but you're good at managing people. Or like, okay, you might not be good at managing people, but you're good at performing a task that requires concentration. Or like they kind of cater to what works best for you, so that they can put everybody into the field that they need to be. And we're getting a little off topic because it kind of plays into it, because once you start one conversation, it leads into another conversation. But like the backbone of this conversation is that single mother homes, or even single father homes, they are missing out on a huge part of understanding from another perspective. That has a huge play on how your child will be raised. Now, granted, it doesn't have to necessarily be the father in the child's life, but I feel like every child should have a mother or father figure or whatnot, or two people in a relationship should be able to raise a child from two different perspectives and be able to kind of make up for the shortfalls of the other. I feel like you can severely put your child behind in life if you cannot do both. But some parents, my mom raised me without the help of like another man in her life for the most part. I mean, I'm not going to get into her business, but like, let's just say we went to church. So like, that was a big part of where I got the father figure type behavior, because there was multiple men in the church who were just like men who had been raised right. the married men who are still with their wives and not divorced and stuff like that, who had kids. They'd always teach us stuff. And I feel like, granted, like the older generation's a little wild with like how long they stay together and everything like that, even through the thick and thin. But like at the end of the day, they kind of learned how to tolerate each other and work with each other, even through their differences. And I think that that's a big thing that doesn't happen nowadays. Like people have differences and they just like, oh, I'm out.
That's it.
Like
Yeah,
I'm out. And then they jump to the next person, jump to the next person. Now, if you have a child in that situation, now the child is jumping to the same situation with you. And then when they get to a point and realize like, why was my mom always jumping a different man? Or like, why was my mom always never able to find anybody? Sometimes that can be a negative impact on the child, and they repeat the same things where it's like, oh, I saw my mom leave this dude because he made her mad about this. So I'm gonna do the same thing when this female does the same thing. And then it kind of repeats a cycle. So I think the biggest takeaway from this is we have to be cognitive of the things that we are saying to the youth, not only your own children, but like the youth who are going to take over the next generation and take care of us at some point. And we have to educate the youth no matter what. So that's a big reason why we do this podcast. Is we know that like our friends and family are like well established and things like that, but there's a lot of people out there who don't have these positive talks or positive role models in their lives, and that's what we try to be. Not saying that we're saints or anything like that. Like everybody has their flaws, and that's not something that we want to put out there as like, oh, we're perfect and we know everything. If you feel like we said something that's wrong or something that we need to dig deeper into, you can leave the comments in the box below and we'll get to them. I mean, that's the thing, is like we're looking for feedback to see like, is there anything that we can improve on that would actually be a different perspective that we can look at. And to be honest, all this is just eventually going to one day become something that even my daughters can watch. So
exactly. But yeah, as Will said, we're happy to receive your feedback, good or bad. Help us improve the channel, perhaps give us some leads on some more content. But guys, if you made it so far, I really appreciate your viewership. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because it helps push our video more to the algorithm so more people can see it. And with that being said, guys, I'm your boy Pop.
My boy Willie, man.
And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.